In today's video, I want to explore the many ways of doing private podcasting here at Castos. Take a look at a couple scenarios and see which route is the best route for you when setting up your private podcast. And I'm going to focus specifically on members-only content if you're a course creator, membership site, something like that. If you're an organization, a company, or a brand, and you're trying to publish private podcasts to your staff and employees, we have other videos for that. I'll link that in the description below. Okay, what can we do for private podcasting here at Castos? You might be on our pricing page. With our starter plan at $19 a month, you can get up to 100 private subscribers to your private podcast. And sometimes we have folks who come to us that have thousands of members, and immediately they say, how much am I going to have to pay for this private podcast? I have 5,000 members. Do I have to pay for all 5,000 members to get access? What if these folks aren't listening to all of these podcasts? And that's a totally viable question, and we have some solutions for that. Number one, what we've seen is when a membership site launches a private podcast for the first time, within the first month or so, first 30 to 45 days, we generally see this 10% to 15% uptick in adoption. In other words, if you have those 5,000 members in your membership site, about 10% of those will actually sign up and start listening to that podcast right out of the gate, especially if this is supplemental content, bonus content, or something like that. If it's not a requirement, they're certainly not going to all dive in at one time. The good news with Castos is you can start on the starter plan and ramp up as your podcast gets more adoption. So if you have that 5,000 members, 10,000 members, whatever it is, think to yourself, out of the gate, how many will I have? You don't need to go all in right from the beginning. Okay, now we're going to take a look at doing a private podcast the easiest and cheapest way with WordPress. So if you're using WordPress, you might have a membership site already. We recommend Paid Memberships Pro. We have some integrations with Paid Memberships Pro, which we'll take a look at in a moment. But it's just your typical membership site here. You'd come to your website, you try to get private content, and it's locked down. Somebody needs to log in or join in order to access this page. And maybe you want to put your podcast on this page that somebody can listen to. So what's the easiest and cheapest way to do that? Let's log in. I'm going to log in as the admin so we can modify these pages. We'll go to the private content page. You see I have this media player here. So we'll hit edit on the WordPress site. And this is simply a audio file uploaded to WordPress. So if you just want the easiest and cheapest way to do this, you simply upload your audio to WordPress. And when you want to add another episode, you click on the add button. We'll do audio, click on audio, media library, and we'll just pick this one for example's sake. And there we have it. Now we have 2 audio players there, and people can log into your membership site and go to that page and listen to that content. Fastest, cheapest way to do it. Has no association with Castos at all. It's just on your WordPress website. So what is the con? The pros were fast and cheap. The cons are, well, you're storing your audio on your site. So in the early days, it's cheap. You're just uploading these audio episodes, no problem. But as days, months, weeks, years go on, you're storing all of that content on your WordPress site. Could get costly for your web host. It could slow things down. And generally, it's not accessible to folks who really want to listen to podcasts. They have to come here to the website and hit play. And one would argue that the best value in podcasting is I can throw it on my mobile device, put my earbuds on or my headphones on, and be on the go or be doing other things. I don't need to be logged in listening to it on a website. And then the last con here is there's no stats. If you're hosting your podcast at Castos, private or public, you're getting that analytics, you're getting that data. Who's listening? What device are they using it? Where are they listening to it from? What are my top shows? When you're just uploading audio like this to an empty page, you don't know how it's performing. You don't know how well it's doing. So that's the last con. There's no analytics when you simply upload a media file to WordPress. Next up, what you can do is use the Seriously Simple podcasting plugin from us here at Castos. Without even connecting it up to Castos, you can have a username and password protected feed using your WordPress site and using our plugin. Here I am on the settings page. I'll go to the security tab, and you would simply check off password protect your podcast feed, and then you can assign a username and password to that. So anyone who tries to access that podcast feed, they will need to enter in a username and password. If we open up this feed in another window, you'll see it'll prompt us to enter in that username and password. Some mobile apps give you access to do that, like I know Overcast does, Pocket Cast does as well. And you can give out your private link to your members or to your community, and they'd have to punch in a username and password in order to access that. How would you put that on your WordPress website? Well, you'd probably edit this private content page we were using as a demo before, and we'll just say, first I'll put in a little paragraph link and say, this is our private link, and then paste in my feed details and then link that up. WordPress will link that by default. Try that one more time. Paste, update, preview in the new tab. And on your private content page in your membership site, you could link it up right here. And anyone who tries to click on that is going to say, hey, put in that username and password. Pretty easy, free, and a private podcast. What are the cons of that? Once again, we have just one link that you're sharing to your entire, private community. So it's always the same RSS feed, but then you always have that same username and password that you have to share with your entire community. So if people are coming and going from your community, they canceled your subscription from your membership site, now you're forced to change either the username or the password over and over again. So it becomes a management issue, overhead of having to switch that out and do that. It's kind of a pain. Plus, folks can always share that username and password outside of the membership. There's also no connection to the membership. So if you're using something like Paid Memberships Pro, it doesn't know what that username and password is. There's no way for Paid Memberships Pro to change that on the fly or to even track that sort of security. So that's the trade-off. Free and easy username and password. They can listen to it on a mobile device, but you'll be rotating that username and password out until the end of time. Now what you want to do if you are using Castos and you want the advantages of hosting your private podcast at Castos or just your podcast at Castos, you want to offload the media to us, you want to have the analytics, the nice user interface, all of that stuff, but you still don't want to sign up for the subscribers here at Castos. How can you get your private podcast up onto your WordPress website? Same page, same thing. You have your private content page. It's protected by, in this case, Paid Memberships Pro. People have to log in to access this page. Then you go to your private podcast in Castos. So let's say I go to this one. I click on View Episodes. I'll show you podcast settings. The distribution is set to private. In other words, this podcast is not going to iTunes, Spotify, Google, etc. You can grab a RSS link right here and put it on your page. So you can get rid of this one, which is the WordPress one, paste in this one, and now this is your Castos link, which is private and not distributed out into the world. But we are met with the same issues as the last example. You have this one link that you have to share out to everyone. And again, this is not a link that you're changing all the time. So if you have members coming and going, and this podcast is part of the value, that link is there and everyone will have access to it and they can share it. So it's up to you to make that decision. The next thing you can do is say, okay, instead of sharing the individual RSS link, I can go and grab the embed file from my show. So I can go to this one episode, grab the iframe, come back into my private content page and do HTML, paste this in, preview it, and you can see it on the front end. You can put the Castos player, similar to what you had above in the above example where you see the default WordPress media player. You can put in the Castos player, and you'll notice that there are no download or share buttons because it is set to private in Castos. So that is one way to sort of protect the RSS feed and protect somebody from downloading the episode here. Look, at the end of the day, private podcast, people can still record audio by simply playing it and holding their phone up to the speakers and recording it. You can't stop somebody from recording audio, and that's the biggest challenge here. But the player is in here, and now people can come to this page and access it. The benefits here is, again, you've sourced it out to Castos to host it, so it's fast, it's efficient, it's got a nice player, and you'll get all of the analytics that when people hit play, you'll get their device information, where they're from, their country location, all that fun stuff. The drawback, they'll have to be here in the website. So it's not a pure podcasting experience. They can't take it on the go with them unless you're letting them use that one global link. Can't really control it. There's no granular control there. That's where the private subscribers comes in with Castos subscribers podcast. Here with the private podcasting through email address, all the email addresses are tied to that RSS link. So if somebody leaves your membership, they get their name removed from the database right here in Castos, which means they'll never be able to listen to an episode again. And there's no worry of having to change a password protected podcast. There's no worry of somebody sharing an individual RSS link because you can control that right to their email address. Every email address gets a unique link, and you can track it, you can safeguard it, and you can remove people when they leave the membership. The trade-off is you have to pay for it. That's the only trade-off. It's a flat fee. We don't take revenue share from your membership. So if you're selling private podcasts, we're not like a Patreon where we're taking the 8 or 12% plus the transaction fee. We don't handle that part of it. You can use something like Paid Memberships Pro to sell your private podcast, charge whatever you want, and Castos is not taking a cut of that revenue. So the trade-off is you do have to pay for it. And like I said at the top of the video, if you're here because you're wondering, well, how am I going to charge for 4,000 members right out of the gate if I don't know if people are going to subscribe right away? Chances are they won't until you start promoting it more, letting them know it's there, letting them know it's available. Start with a smaller plan and ramp it up. When you come to your Castos private subscribers dashboard, you can see the analytics, you can see the growth rate, and you can see where you're at with adoption and make adjustments accordingly. But also if you're selling content, well, you're making money too. So it's also the perfect trade-off. You're making money, you're selling more accounts, you're pushing out more audio. I think it's a win-win for everyone. So 4 different ways to do private podcasting here at Castos, from the cheapest and fastest to the one you have to pay for but gives you the most bang for your buck with Castos private subscribers podcasting. It's amazing stuff. Thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want more. We'll see you in the next episode.